As a German, a citizen of a nation that intimately understands the trauma of extreme ideologies and historical division, I see a terrifying, dark mirror when analyzing the history of Iran. Today, we conduct a forensic autopsy on how this 5,000-year-old civilization was supposedly destroyed 5 times, leading directly to the geopolitical fallout of the global escalation we are currently experiencing. Let's open the files. Let us begin with the ancient conquests and the phenomenon of cultural assimilation. First, a clinical clarification on the name. To the ancient Greeks, this land was known as Persia. But to its native inhabitants, it had been called Iranshar, the land of the Aryans, since the 3rd century AD. If you want proof, look at the official memorandum sent to the League of Nations in March 1935, where Reza Shah Pahlavi officially demanded the international community stop using the Greek exonym and formally recognize the state as Iran. Forensic history proves that this nation has been conquered, repeatedly. In 330 BC, Alexander the Great marched in and burned the magnificent Achaemenid capital of Persepolis to the ground. You can still examine the physical layer of ash carbon dated to this exact period in the ruins today. Nearly a millennium later, between 636 and 651 AD, the Arab armies of the Rashidun Caliphate arrived with kinetic force, completely crushing the Persian Sassanid Empire. But this land possesses the most terrifying cultural immune system in human history. The Persians did not defeat their conquerors with military might. They digested them with bureaucracy. The Arabs brought Islam in the 7th century, but the Persians quietly seized control of the administrative infrastructure. For historical evidence, examine the Abbasid Caliphate. Its entire government was practically run by the Barmakids, a highly influential Persian family. The Islamic Golden Age was monopolized by Persian minds. Look at the ancient manuscripts currently sitting in the Bodleian Library at Oxford. The foundations of algebra and modern medicine were written by Persian scholars like Al-Khwarizmi and Avicenna. The cognitive overload was fatal to the conqueror's original identity. The Persians simply absorbed the invaders, rewriting their cultural DNA until the enemies effectively became Persians themselves. We move forward to the 13th century and the Mongol Kinetic surge. A cultural immune system, however, becomes utterly useless against a machine that only cares about the mathematics of death. In 1219 AD, Genghis Khan unleashed his hordes upon the Khwarezmian Empire. The Mongols executed the largest targeted population attrition in recorded history. But historical forensics repeated itself. Within just 3 generations, the descendants of these raw meat-eating nomadic warriors established the Ilkhanate and were fully assimilated. For physical proof, you only need to visit the Louvre or the Metropolitan Museum of Art to view the Great Mongol Shahnameh, the Damad Shahnameh. These brutal conquerors literally commissioned lavish, illustrated manuscripts of the Persian national epic, converting to Islam by the decree of Ghazan Khan in 1295. You can physically exterminate the Persian human resources, but their cultural virus will eventually hijack your operating system. The Mongols won the Kinetic War, but lost their own identity. Next, we examine the conclusion of the post-war geopolitical landscape, specifically the CIA's botched surgery of 1953. From a German military mathematical perspective, Operation Ajax in August 1953 was the most idiotic, botched organ transplant in geopolitical history. This is not a conspiracy theory. We have the receipts. In 2013, the National Security Archive officially published the declassified CIA internal history documents. The documents explicitly detail the bribes, the staged riots, and how the CIA surgically removed the democratically leaning Prime Minister, Mohammad Mossadegh, to implant an artificial heart of absolute power into Mohammad Reza Shah Pahlavi. They thought they had stabilized the patient. Instead, they accidentally disabled the safety pressure valve of a 5,000-year-old society. To understand the sheer mathematical disconnect, look at the 1971 celebration of the Persian Empire. The Shah threw a $100 million party at the ruins of Persepolis. We have the forensic receipts. He built a massive oasis using 50 kilometers of Parisian silk, catered 18 tons of luxury food directly from France, and flew in 50,000 European songbirds, most of which immediately died in the scorching desert heat. While he was serving roasted peacock to foreign royals, the general population boiled into a state of systemic instability. This wasn't a natural famine, it was a clinical socio-economic strangulation. Millions in rural villages lacked running water, basic electricity, and healthcare, while severe inflation crushed the working class in Tehran's expanding slums. Any resistance was met with kinetic suppression by Savak, the Shah's brutal, Western-trained secret police, who systematically tortured dissidents with extreme physical duress to silence political speech. America did not save its oil supply, they self-sabotaged. They fertilized the soil for their most dangerous geopolitical enemy. The 1979 Islamic Revolution was not an accident, it was a direct, mathematical blowback. This direct blowback brings us to the fourth catastrophe, the autoimmune curse. In February 1979, Ayatollah Ruhollah Khomeini successfully hijacked the revolution. The population thought they had extracted the external influence, but the immune system malfunctioned and began attacking the host body. Instead of rebuilding the economy, the new theocratic regime fed hundreds of thousands of young men into the attrition theater of the Iran-Iraq War. For biological proof of this systemic attrition, look at the Beheshti Zahra Cemetery in Tehran. Thousands of child soldiers are buried here, many of whom were famously issued cheap, plastic keys to paradise, made in Taiwan to wear around their necks before marching into active minefields. Today, forensic financial tracking by international watchdogs proves the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, IRGC, diverts billions of dollars from the domestic economy to fund decentralized proxy militias across the Middle East, while their domestic currency suffers catastrophic inflation. They survived Alexander, the Mongols, and the CIA. But today, they are trapped in a severe autoimmune disease, consumed from the inside by their own theocratic leadership. Finally, we confront the ultimate, most profound irony of history that has just unfolded in our current era of 2026. The fatal slip that ignited the global escalation. Washington has always harbored a naive, Hollywood-style belief. Cut off the head of the snake, and the body will die. Donald Trump's recent decision to capture the Iranian president was not a tactical victory. It was a lit match thrown directly into a global powder keg. When U.S. Special Forces attempted to illegally extract Iranian president during a diplomatic transit, resulting in his highly publicized and systemic displacement, the Americans completely ignored the core diagnostic trait of modern Iran, which is publicly codified in the IRGC's own forward defense military doctrine. They do not fight through a single centralized individual. They fight through a decentralized, deeply entrenched proxy network fueled by a strict martyrdom complex. Removing their leader did not bring capitulation, it triggered an automated, catastrophic domino effect. The first official shot of the global escalation was an automated kinetic reflex. Within hours of the president's death, the IRGC launched a devastating swarm of long-range kinetic assets directly at the U.S. Fifth Fleet in Bahrain and critical Allied military bases. Simultaneously, they executed their ultimate failsafe, mining and blockading the Strait of Hormuz. Practically overnight, 30% of the world's seaborne oil supply evaporated. Global energy markets suffered a clinical heart attack, with Brent crude prices mathematically shattering Western supply chains and instantly plunging the global economy into a severe depression. Trump's tactical arrogance forced Russia, China, and the entire Middle East to show their hands, meaning they completely dropped their diplomatic camouflage and activated their military pacts. Russia immediately retaliated by supplying the IRGC with real-time satellite targeting data and moving nuclear-capable submarines into the Mediterranean. China, realizing its own energy lifeline was structurally threatened, instantly shifted from a silent economic partner to an active military supplier, mobilizing its naval fleet in the South China Sea to fracture the U.S. military across two massive, unsustainable fronts. By attempting to execute a clean, Hollywood-style decapitation strike, the United States effectively dragged humanity into the existential escalation of the global escalation that we are currently experiencing. A tactical win on paper triggered a global systemic collapse. In summary, the clinical history of Iran proves one absolute rule: you cannot destroy a 5,000-year-old nation from the outside. However, the sheer arrogance of foreign empires will almost certainly burn the world to the ground when they try to intervene. My forensic question to you is this: do you believe Trump's decision to capture the Iranian president was a misunderstood stroke of geopolitical genius? Or was it officially the most high-risk strategic misstep of the 21st century that ignited the collapse of the modern world? Drop your propaganda, let go of your national ego, and leave your clinical verdict in the comments below. If this autopsy shattered your geopolitical illusions, leave a like to verify the data. Subscribe to the WarSim for more clinical history, and share this classified file with fellow history enthusiasts to exchange your perspectives on this clinical analysis.